If you didn't mean to click on this video or don't intend to hang around, just stick around long enough to hear this. You can choose to buy real luxury items, or you can choose to buy a fake. No one can tell you what to do and how to spend your money. That's true. You are a self-governing body unto yourself. Now, you may think one is dumb, but the other is definitely wrong. And I'd rather you be dumb with your money than dishonorable. I know that's a really strong word, but there really is no honor in buying fake or replica luxury items from a business ethics perspective. In this video, I want to make a case for why you shouldn't purchase fake or replica luxury items either. Welcome to A Brief Case of Luxury. Here on this channel, we like to talk about all things related to life, learning, and luxury. And as a business professor who also has a weakness for luxury handbags, I hope you find some of my insights insightful. There's been quite an ongoing conversation here on YouTube defending when it's okay to purchase replicas, which is really fascinating, but at the same time concerning for many reasons. Now, generally speaking, most arguments that I see on YouTube that are either for or against the purchasing of fakes comes from a consumer perspective, which is totally understandable since most of us are consumers. I would argue only a very small percentage, if any, of those watching or making videos on designer fakes are fake replica manufacturers themselves trying to do their due diligence, saying, I'm gonna jump on YouTube to learn more about what my target market wants out of a fake designer bag. Or B, actual executives of luxury brands trying to figure out, well, how can I prevent my current or potential customers from buying a fake of my product? I mean, the reality is most of us are consumers. Some of us may be stakeholders or ex-stakeholders like former employees, and some of us may be shareholders, as in we invest in these companies and we want them to do well because when they do well as a company, our investments do well and so we do well. And if you are a stake or a shareholder of a legit designer brand, then it's much easier to see why fake items can be worrisome. Because the thing is, we are all interconnected in this grand scheme of the overall market and economy. So it's not an us as consumers versus them as greedy corporations mentality that we need to have. Because again, our actions will always result in a market reaction, and there's a cyclical effect that happens, which means when you purchase designer fakes, the decision impacts more than just you. What I want to do is take a look at the 5 most common arguments I see for the purchasing of fakes here on YouTube and just debunk them or at least question the logic behind those arguments. But let's just start with the biggest issue up front and just get that out of the way. Yes, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, it's not only illegal to manufacture and distribute counterfeit goods, it's also illegal to purchase counterfeit goods. So with that in mind, I've always been curious if it's then illegal to encourage the purchase of counterfeit goods, especially on YouTube when a YouTuber openly shows a counterfeit item and does a review on it, for instance. Is that subject to legal implications? Sure, maybe they purchased it or maybe they were gifted it, doesn't matter which. If there are any lawyers out there that want to weigh in, then fantastic. I've mentioned this before in a previous video, but it's really not a victimless crime, even if you ignore the fact that counterfeit manufacturing and distribution is often inherently tied to other criminal activities. At the end of the day, it's a form of theft. It's a form of intellectual property theft. I mean, you wouldn't walk into Louis Vuitton to try to steal a purse, would you? Or would you be willing to buy a Louis Vuitton purse on the secondhand market if you knew it was stolen? So most fundamentally, counterfeit goods are illegal because they are a form of theft. Simple as that. And if manufacturers are okay making a living off theft, then chances are they are okay with other forms of criminal business activities as well to get those counterfeit stolen products out into the market. And unfortunately, it's much harder to hold illegal businesses accountable because their entire goal is to operate outside the scope of the law and bypass the rules and regulations that have been put in place to protect other businesses. Again, if the fact that it's illegal isn't reason enough to avoid the purchase of fakes and replicas, I mean, I know statistically speaking, we've probably all done something illegal at some point in our lives, whether it's as simple as jaywalking, going above the speed limit, or underage drinking, for instance, since I am a college professor, I see that. So yes, you can come at me with all of these different other illegal activities that we may engage in, but let's not get misdirected and stay focused on this topic, and let's get into some of these actual arguments. The first argument I hear all the time is, it's my money, I can spend it how I want to. I don't judge you, so don't be judging me. I hear that a lot. It's your money. You spend it how you want to, and yes, I get it. It's your money. You want the liberty to spend it on what you want. But that's quite simply not the strongest argument, is it? Because the liberty to spend it on what you want only goes so far without there being legal consequences. You can spend it on drugs, for instance, but because that's illegal, there will be ramifications if you are caught spending your money on drugs. So yes, you can spend it how you want to, but it's not above the law and it's not without consequences. For instance, you can eat whatever you want to. There is no one stopping you from eating a dozen donuts in one sitting, but that's not without consequences, depending on what you're choosing to put into your body. So in my opinion, that's really not the best argument, that it's your money, that you can do what you want with it. Because spend it on what you want, just don't expect there not to be legal consequences for spending your money on illegal items. And when someone says, hey, I don't think you should be spending your money on fakes, and you come back saying, hey, why don't you just mind your own business, it still doesn't change the reality of the transaction. The second argument that you hear a lot is the reason why there are so many review videos out there, is that there are some very high quality, amazing fakes nowadays. With all the quality issues with brands like Chanel and even Louis Vuitton, their argument is that you can buy a replica bag with just as good quality, maybe even better. Again, a good quality fake is still a fake. And maybe there are some of you daredevils out there who purposefully bring fakes into the actual stores to see if they can spot the difference. But I would wager to say that for most people, they would be hesitant to bring a fake bag into the real store. And why is that? Is it because you inherently know that, hey, this is wrong? The company would be probably upset to know that there are people out there trying to make money off of their brand and design, and that the company would probably be upset that I intentionally chose to buy a replica. And could you blame them for being upset? So instead of buying a high quality fake, why not consider buying a really good quality handbag from a reputable brand like Coach, for instance, for the same price or less than what people are paying nowadays for these high quality fakes? Now, argument number 3, buying a fake is a good way to test the real thing. Another way to test the real thing, maybe if you don't want to buy it, is to rent the real thing, for instance. I know there are plenty of bag rental companies out there where you can actually test the real thing. This argument really is a false dichotomy that your only other option is to buy a fake if you're not ready to buy the real thing. I mean, you wouldn't go out and buy a fake Tesla to see if you actually want the real Tesla, would you? Or you wouldn't buy a fake iPhone to see if the real iPhone's going to fit your lifestyle, right? Argument number 4, I won't feel bad if something happens to it, for instance, if it gets stolen or ruined. And that's something that you hear quite often. Now those people can use it when they travel on the airplane, and they wouldn't have to worry about babying the bag. Now, I know a lot of my counter arguments are similar, but here we go again. Just because you are personally afraid to use the real thing does not justify the purchase of a fake. You have to decide for yourself if you are purchasing a designer bag as an investment, which means you do want to keep it in pristine condition, or if you're purchasing a designer bag to actually love and use it. And if it's to love and use, then by all means love and use it and know what you're getting into. Now, this next argument is probably what started it all for me. Argument number 5, if you were smart with your money, you would know better than to waste that hard-earned money on silly things like designer bag. There's that whole article, right, that's been making its way around the internet, an entire community of uber-rich, supposedly career-driven women, self-made women who purposefully buy and trade in counterfeit purses. Their logic, that they are too smart with their money, that they've worked too hard for their money to spend it on real designer bags. Instead, it's the women who don't work, it's the women who don't understand the value of money that are essentially dumb enough to make these financial mistakes. Now, these women are financially wise and savvy enough to buy a fake bag and take that leftover money and use it towards activities that will make them more money. And according to these articles, these women are bankers, they are executives, they're investors, they're entrepreneurs, and they have built themselves a false moral high ground. And I'm honestly mortified. There are no other words. I teach business to young adults who will essentially be the next generation of business leaders. And I wouldn't even know what to do if a student said, yeah, I plagiarized my homework because it's more time efficient than writing it myself. I mean, only losers would actually spend the time writing it because I have better things to do with my time. Or if a banker told me, yes, I use fake money, so I have more money in the bank. Duh, how else am I supposed to build wealth if I spend all my own money? And so for investors, bankers, and business owners to have that type of attitude honestly makes me question their ethics and personal morals and how they got to where they are in their successful careers, and in what other ways have they strategically chosen to be deceptive in the name of being business savvy. I don't know if I could trust an investor with my money if they have this attitude that theft is okay. I don't know if I can trust a business partner if they have this attitude. I would constantly be concerned about what else they are trying to get away with. I mean, can I really trust that they are really providing me with what I want? Because I wouldn't trust their opinions, their decisions, and even their products. I said this at the beginning, I'd rather you be dumb with your money than dishonorable. And for an entire class of self-made professional women to have this attitude is really scary, and honestly, it's really disappointing. I mean, on that note, I honestly don't know what to say and how to end this video. I know no one asked for this in the first place, but I hope it at least sparks a conversation and a thought about why this is not the best idea, especially if you are personally considering purchasing a fake for any of those reasons we discussed. Again, most of these arguments center around a false dichotomy that your only option if you don't want to buy the real thing is to buy a fake, when in reality, there are many different options and alternatives, and none of which are illegal. For instance, you can rent. You can opt for a contemporary brand or contemporary luxury brand. Or heck, you can personally choose not to buy luxury brands because no one is forcing you to. And none of these other alternatives would be considered illegal, and that's a giant plus for me. Now, if you have a rebuttal, I'd love to hear it because I know there are probably some sound arguments out there. I mean, there's a reason why online e-retailers like DHgate are getting away with counterfeit products, and that partly has to do with different regulatory standards that aren't globally recognized, especially in China. So yes, it's entirely possible that in some places in the world, counterfeiting is not illegal because it's simply not written into law. But just because something isn't outrightly illegal doesn't mean it's not immoral. You could easily argue the opposite, right? Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's moral either. And I know morality and the concept of right versus wrong is a whole other argument unto itself, but yes, let me know your thoughts. And if you've enjoyed this video or want to see me take on more cases, please be sure to like and subscribe.